Fast forward, I'm now some more crab. I'm watching your social so I'm saying how say GH politics are when podcast stories are trying to make make headlines. Now, you're ready to be extra or had need me on brack to move. Best say you move writing Simo. Kissing seriously. As some of that personal just say in Yasam Kotwakra and he's saying Ǎřmš, His Excellency, and I'm an say ammunitions are under N.Addo dankwa Akuffo as at 2024 would transfer from Ghana Armed Forces so omedi national security thousands of ammunitions intimi ankwan kudu national security war e wan fans who are yehu bebia ammunitions na ide afa we say oppose security threat amamenu mienu nyina anya asem kotoa na meno ka say His Excellency Prez.Mahama are calling upon the former administration under N.Addo dankwa Akuffo say baby ammunitions no e fire no omumra na ombe yoma no mesro say mu ransimu na indo mu esuko medase so ajemre e wo ha say
Government has sparked fears of the possibility of the weapons getting into the hands of criminals.
It remains an unanswered question bogging the minds of Ghana's security chiefs to the level of the Commander-in-Chief, Prez.Mahama.
We have kept our nation safe and stable, notwithstanding the irregular transfer of thousands of rounds of military ammunition in 2024 from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security Outfit. Ammunitions since not been accounted for.
Addressing the media as part of government's accountability series, the national security has clear marching orders.
If you go back to the President's State of the Nation address 2025, he hinted at it. This is the next phase. But the reality is that to date, those ammunitions have not been accounted for. How the Ghana Armed Forces could transfer ammunitions to national security that doesn't have a fighting force in 2024 is a question that will definitely have to be answered. The Ghana Armed Forces has passed it on to the National Security Secretariat for the National Security Secretariat to investigate it since they were the recipients of the ammunitions.
Defense Minister Dr. Edward Bawumia says the debt situation of the armed forces has attracted the President's attention with a firm action being taken.
These legacy debts continue to constrain our ability to invest adequately in critical defense priorities and warfare infrastructure. Alongside this, we are contending with a 17,000 unit accommodation deficit for our brave men and women in uniform. These are not just figures. They are realities that affect operational readiness, troop morale, and the dignity of service.
On the Boko crisis, the minister disclosed that government will reconstruct the statue of the Zugran of the Kusau traditional area in Boko, which was vandalized by some military officers.
We shall always separate crime from traditional matters, enabling us to deal appropriately and legally with criminals who foment trouble in the name of chieftaincy conflict.
On Galamsey, government says it remains focused on the fight. In January this year, some soldiers allegedly shot some local miners in the AGI Obuasi mines. An investigation was subsequently commissioned.
There is a report that has come out of the investigation that took place there. The outcome of the investigation is clear. Do I want to speak to it at this stage? However, subsequent actions will let everyone know what the implications of that particular investigation is.
So that is the minister in charge of Ghana's defense, and he touched on a subject about some ammunitions moved from the Ghana Armed Forces to national security, and even hinted that President John Dramani Mahama, in his first State of the Nation address in Parliament, touched on the subject. So before we even try and get some perspectives to this issue, let's find out what exactly the Commander-in-Chief, President John Mahama himself, said regarding those missing or those moved items and where they probably could be. So when the President spoke to Parliament, these were his exact words. He said, "As Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, I want to emphasize our determination to strengthen our democracy." He goes on to say that this is particularly true given the troubling proliferation of military-grade weapons that fell into unauthorized hands under the previous administration. These weapons pose a significant threat to our national security and constitutional democracy, endangering the safety of all Ghanaians and potentially exacerbating existing conflicts such as chieftaincy disputes and armed robbery. Those are the words of the President John Dramani Mahama when he spoke to Parliament regarding this particular concern of the arms that were moved from the Ghana Police, I beg your pardon, the Ghana Armed Forces to national security. For whatever operation it was that was needed for, we do not know. But let's try and get some perspectives to this. We are joined by Dr. Victor Doke, who is a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, for some thoughts. So, Doc, good evening and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Martin.
Many have expressed surprise about this revelation by the defense minister, and as a security analyst yourself, what really do you make of this revelation by the minister that the arms that have been moved, notably documented, moved from one institution, but the receiving entity does not have any record regarding receiving it? How does this hit you?
Well, thank you very much. It's a cause for worry with regards to how you have mechanisms or strict mechanisms with regards to documentation when it comes to weapons and ammunitions and the armory itself, because then to take a weapon or to go in for ammunition, there are stringent processes that one goes through. You sign against the form, your name, the number, quantity that you need. Now, not only that, you would have to require a pass of some sort for you to leave the depot with those ammunitions or weapons. Now, for this to happen, as per the minister said, the irregular transfer of thousands of rounds of military ammunition, then it means something may have gone wrong. There was a breach with regards to security and standard operating procedures when it comes to acquiring or securing ammunition for use in the context of security, military, or national security at large. Now, this calls for a thorough investigation, of course. The issue, rest assured, has been reported. And in this context, we are talking about the military police's unit, which would spearhead the investigations. A comprehensive inventory will have to be done in that regard of the armory, what happened, specific dates, who signed on specific times, what was it going to be used for, and the receiving entity, who were those officers who received it. Now, all this would have to be done to determine the amount and the type of military ammunition that is, has been transferred irregularly. And through this thorough investigation, you get to determine the cause of the missing or the irregular transfer of the ammunitions, and then you can make recommendations on that. But by and large, it means the SOPs at some point with regards to transfer of ammunition was not followed. And the records will be there for whoever signed against it, whoever authorized would have to answer questions.
And should we be worried even more, especially because it's been about 7 months down the line since this new government took over, and the report indicate that this transfer was in 2024. So if all these months have passed and we still are unable to tell, that should even be more concerning, shouldn't it?
Right, very right. So now, any citizen or Ghanaian hearing this would, have cause for concern. Now, exactly in 2024, which period are we talking about? Is it the whole 2024 or some quarters in 2024? Ideally, now, in the context of our dispensation now in Ghana here, what are the dynamics that play out when you talk about irregular transfer of what ammunitions? Does it pose a threat? Okay, these are the questions that people would generally ask. At some level, you'll rest assured that the security apparatus, as the minister has come out with this information, means they have advanced with regards to what investigations, and it's only a matter of time that people will be named, culprits will be picked up for questions and answering. But I don't think we should be worried in that regard, because now when you talk about even the illegal or the negative use of these, ammunition, should assuming it falls into the wrong hands, you're talking about how the intelligence have picked up who are those who are going to use it for what purpose and whatnot.
Right.
So I think people should just relax for the authorities to work, with regards to what the information that they have, and then rest assured we'll have some positive results coming up.
Okay, kindly hold on for me. Let me bring this to the attention of our viewers and probably you yourself, which is that the former Deputy Defense Minister, Kofi Amankwa-Menu, has been reacting to the current Defense Minister's exposition that these weapons cannot be accounted for, although they have been transferred. And this is a reaction we got from him, which says it will not be too difficult knowing where a gun or ammunition went, who took what it was used for. I find it a bit absurd that the minister will run to the public domain with some of these issues. And it says, I will find it difficult if the minister will not get the answers he needs. He is the minister. When the records are there, who will tamper with it? So that's the more like a response from the former Deputy Defense Minister reacting to what Dr. Omane Boama said. So as a security watcher, again, does this come to you as a member of the former administration trying to help government locate these weapons, or it comes across as totally dismissing the concern being raised? Do that for me in a minute.
Well, for me, what I see is some sort of like a rebuttal, but ideally, when you have a former Deputy Defense Minister, you should be able to call or reach out to the Defense Minister and then offer some ideas or guidance if you know or you have any information, because this is what has been put out. So it means there has been an inventory that has been done and a thorough initial investigation done to assess that there were some illegal transfer of thousands of rounds of ammunition. So that word alone should tell you that there was a breach in standard operation procedures. So yes, there are ammunition that have gone out irregularly. There are records to show that in the operations or day-to-day operations, ammunitions go in their standard operation procedures to follow. The records are there. The two gentlemen are right with regards to accountability and all that. But I think this shouldn't continue in the public domain because we are talking about security issues. I think the back door should liaise and then get information and then put this to end.
Dr. Victor Doke, pleasure talking to you as always. Thank you so much for your time. He is a security analyst.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Defense has issued a strong warning against fraudulent recruitment schemes, emphasizing that all enlistment into the Ghana Armed Forces under the current administration will be strictly based on merit. While cautioning the public, the minister also hinted of a massive recruitment to hit the armed forces in the coming months.
We rely on body selection and fitness tests conducted years ago to inform recruitment decision now. Additionally, with the passage of time, many have exceeded the age limit. I'm excited to announce that, as has been communicated by the Commander-in-Chief, a comprehensive enlistment and recruitment exercise is to be undertaken with a view to increasing the manpower strength of the Ghana Armed Forces. Altogether, we are enlisting and recruiting 12,000 personnel within the next 3.5 years.
Let's now cross over to Parliament, and there is controversy surrounding attempts by government to lay the Ghana Medical Trust Fund bill. Our reporter Christian Yale is there and joins us with more. Christian, thank you so much for your time. What is this controversy about?
Portia, so what we know is that earlier today the bill was laid in Parliament and read for the first time. Usually when it happens like that, it is referred to the relevant committee. So in this case, the Health Committee was tasked to look at it and report back to the House. But the indication was that it would be considered under a certificate of urgency due to the urgency in which government considers the relevance of this bill in helping to deal with non-communicable diseases and the payment thereof. It was brought back later, but the concern was that the report as submitted by the Health Committee for the House to consider this bill under a certificate of urgency did not have the signature of the Health Committee Chairman, Dr. Nawani. That was the concern of the minority, who raised the concern basing their argument on the Standing Order 2152, which stipulates that any report submitted to the House for consideration should come under the certificate or under the signature of the committee chairman or the clerk to the chairman. And so with the absence of the signature to the chairman, that was a concern for the minority, who have long held that it was not of essence to present this bill under a certificate of urgency. But that resulted in quite some heated exchanges, but calms have prevailed, or cool heads have prevailed, and now the bill is being considered and has been read the second time. Portia.
Christian, thank you so much for your time. Let's continue with the rest of our stories. And the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources has threatened to revoke the licenses of 962 small-scale miners if identified irregularities are not resolved within 2 weeks. This follows a report from a ministerial committee tasked to review small-scale mining licenses across the country. Let's walk you through a summary of what the committee found. So according to the summary of what the committee found, 1,278 licenses were reviewed. Out of this, 962 were fraught with multiple irregularities and some anomalies. There were no concerns, and 316 were in good standing. Now, this is what they've been asked to do. They've been asked to rectify their license within 2 weeks, or they will risk revocation. Let's speak to Pakwesi Shandov. He is a media relations officer at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Pakwesi, thank you so much for your time. Give us a sense of the nature of these anomalies or irregularities identified.
Good evening to yourself.
Hello, Pakwesi.
Hello.
Yes, I was telling you to give us a sense of the anomalies that were identified.
Precisely, I was on that. I was saying that the nature of the anomalies that were identified included some gaps in the documentation processes, as well as certain operational anomalies. Then also we had issues with certain data, the compilation of or data, or if you like, the records of some of these companies. A couple of them did not meet the stated guidelines and protocols, and so that is what puts them in that danger zone of their licenses being revoked. In all, a total of 1,278 licenses were reviewed, but 962 stood defective, which means that we have a little over 300 which are in good standing. If I have to put it that way, 316, they are cleared of any irregularities. And so the ultimatum is basically 2 weeks. After that period, if the anomalies are not rectified, the 962 licenses will effectively be revoked.
Have these identified challenges been communicated to the specific miners, knowing that they have a 2-week deadline?
Okay, so the report was presented today, and following the presentation of the report, the minister gave the directive accordingly. And so we know, or we are certain that latest by tomorrow, they should have knowledge of this particular directive. That is, the affected license holders.
Now, Pa, just before you go, how does government and the minister respond to concerns it is not doing much to tackle illegal mining? We heard that even from UTAG today.
Well, those concerns, I think, do not reflect the facts. Indeed, they do not appeal to the records. Because if you want to run an assessment of the current fight against illegal mining, the first thing to do is to look at the situation back then and you gauge it against the achievements of the now. For instance, back then we had some 9 forest reserves which had been designated red spots. As we speak, 8 of them have been retrieved. And even as of now, I mean, as of record today, there is certainty that even the outstanding one, that is the forest reserve in Missouri, is about to, or is almost, is near recovery by the ministry. And that is just a highlight of the many notable interventions. But so putting all together, it's a bit curious for anybody to believe that the fight is not being well fought. And in concluding, still on the fight against illegal mining, for example, it is only just last week that 2 leading members of the National Democratic Congress became subjects of a very sensitive investigation. If there is no political will from the President and the Secretary Minister, Honorable Akuffo, I don't think we would be getting there. But on Wednesday, when the Minister finally engages the press at the Government Accountability Series, there would be more. But you know, the efforts so far are commendable, and so it is not true that government is not being responsive to the fight against illegal mining.
Pa Kwesi, thank you so much for your time. Pa Kwesi Shandov, Media Relations Officer at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources.
Now, experts have blamed weaknesses in our criminal, justice and security systems for a disturbing pattern of violent deaths across the country. Several individuals once reported missing have been found dead under suspicious circumstances between June and July this year alone. My colleague Judith Brown recounts 5 unsettling cases that have stirred national concern over safety, policing and justice.
There's a growing concern following a chilling pattern of deaths recorded in the country this mid-2025. Persons reported missing and later discovered dead. It started with the killing of Stephen King Amwa, a 38-year-old officer with the Ghana Immigration Service. On July 3, Amwa left his home in a Sherman estate to collect a 200,000 cedi debt, but he never returned. His body was discovered 5 days later, burned and dumped in a gutter opposite Comet Estate in Accra. The key suspect, Bright Awe, who reportedly lured Amwa with WhatsApp images of large sums of cash, has since been arrested. In the Sherman, another taxi driver allegedly met a tragic fate.
Into we say a sama horo timi course watch na so mamna wase so jemre e wo ha da sene so ba den dia dum bi edomania onu yin hie man na yam fa de chinse ensan ensumo.